He just kind of hooks a right directly in to the crowd.
2 weeks ago, a similar scene in Magdeburg, Germany, leaving 5 dead and hundreds injured after a man drove through a Christmas market.
Dude, what a fucking way to start the new year. When you talk about trying to kill as many civilians as possible, that is an act of domestic terror. I guess let me just start off with giving you details about what took place. At least 10 are killed in New Orleans after a driver intentionally rammed into a crowd on Bourbon Street. I believe 35 are injured as of now when a driver rammed a pickup truck into a crowd during a New Year's celebration on Bourbon Street in New Orleans early on Wednesday morning. The FBI is investigating it as an act of terrorism. The FBI has identified the suspect as a 42-year-old Texas man and Army veteran. Law enforcement sources say the suspect, who was killed in a firefight with officers, had an ISIS flag at the time of the attack. The FBI said it is investigating the potential associations with terrorist organizations. The FBI said it doesn't think the driver was solely responsible. Weapons as well as potentially improvised explosive devices, otherwise known as IEDs, were found on the vehicle. Officials have located IEDs in the area. The attack in the popular French Quarter happened less than a mile from where the Sugar Bowl was to be hosted Wednesday. The annual college football game was postponed for 24 hours for public safety reasons, the Bulls CEO said. There was a police barricade. So if you're wondering like how this happened, apparently the driver went around. Video shows the moment the FBI says Shamsuddin Jabbar raced onto a packed Bourbon Street from Canal Street in a pickup truck with Texas plates and an ISIS flag. A couple things that are immediately interesting, obviously, is that yesterday we talked about the surveillance state. Yesterday we talked about how the police are supposed to navigate around these sorts of things and apprehend suspects and have this like massive net of surveillance, and how that is going to subvert and apprehend and stop additional, terror attacks from potentially taking place. Now, what's interesting is, as I said yesterday, they don't do that. It doesn't actually end up doing that, playing that role at all. And this is yet further evidence that it doesn't do that at all. He just kind of hooks a right directly in to the crowd, passing a cop car. They have placed barricades.
With local and federal
anyway, here's the FBI. We'll now tune into the FBI press briefing that took place. We'll listen to the press conference that took place. Also, on top of that, the local press conference with the police, and apparently Kennedy was there as well.
Ongoing investigation.
Oh, it was a Ford F-150 Lightning. That's why its pickup is crazy. All right, that makes sense. It's a heavier vehicle, and also two, it can accelerate with incredible speed, like much faster than an ICE engine car of similar weight.
Into the tragic attack in New Orleans. This is Fox News live coverage of the terror attack, the New Year's Day terror attack in New Orleans. Let's listen now to the officials.
I'm going to provide you some facts and information about what we do know. I know that all of you will have questions, and we will try to provide some answers. But this is an ongoing investigation that's rapidly evolving. So there are some questions I will be unable to answer at this time. The FBI is the lead investigative agency of the vehicle on the
Did they not change the microphone? That's crazy. I assume that there's got to be a better mic here, right?
Contact us.
Oh, there it is.
The FBI is asking the public's help. We're asking anyone who has information, video, or pictures to provide it to the FBI. We have set up a digital tip line as well as our 1-800 number, 1-800-CALL-FBI. Please provide us with any information that can assist us in this investigation. Once again, thank you for your patience and assistance. For an updated statements or information.
Calling it terrorism reads racist. I mean, no, it is. It is definitionally an act of terrorism. The problem is, I guess, that is intentionally vague and almost always, almost never applied to white supremacist domestic terrorists, even though they run up the numbers. But it's an act of terror. Like 100%. When you talk about trying to kill as many civilians as possible, that is an act of domestic terror. Okay. This on top of this will most likely get a lot more understandable coverage considering the timing. and also the potential implications given who did this act of violence. Now, the usual actors that want to turn every tragedy into another talking point for their pet issues seemingly considered this to be an undocumented migrant. New Orleans terror attacker is said to have come across the border in Eagle Pass 2 days ago. Shut the border down. Who did our government bomb lately that is taking it out on innocent Americans? Apparently, the New Orleans car ramming attacker was also a U.S. citizen born and raised in Texas. Also, crime rates are not anywhere close to where they've been in the past, but neither Trump nor Sheep will let facts get in the way of their hateful narrative. Here's the Trump statement. When I said that criminals coming in are far worse than the criminals we have in our country, the statement was constantly refuted by Democrats and the fake news media, but it turned out to be true. Because they are more, like the right wing is broadly more focused on undocumented migrant crime and consistently trying to portray that as the overarching narrative so they can tie it back to their white nativist immigration strategies. They jumped the gun and immediately went, oh, this is an undocumented migrant, not realizing that this is another type of common narrative that you can always point to, which is Islamic terror, right? So they kind of blew their load a little bit too early, it seems. Apparently, Fox News also tried to hit the human smuggling angle here. What?
That was used in this. We know that it was a rental. We know that it was brought from Texas and it was spotted in Eagle Pass, Texas, back on November 19th. But we understand that the truck does have a history of plate readers. It never actually passed through from Mexico into Eagle Pass. However, the license plate on this truck.
Turns out it's a dude born and raised in America, Army veteran, recent convert to Islam, and was, divorced from his first wife and seemingly was exhibiting erratic behavior, according to the New York Times. A man who knew Shamsuddin Bahar Jabbar tells us Jabbar had converted to Islam, then began acting erratically in recent months. The concerning behavior led him having limited contact with his children. We also spoke to the man who rented the truck to Jabbar. Here's our updating story on the suspect in New Orleans. Federal agents at the home of the second wife of the Bourbon Street attacker in Houston, Texas, where the woman's new husband, Dwayne Marsh, said Jabbar had begun to convert to Islam within the last year and was being all crazy. This is from Steve Herman, House Bureau Chief of Voice of America News. 42-year-old Shamsuddin Jabbar, accused of carrying out the attack, uploaded a video to YouTube where he introduced himself as a property manager. And I gave you his background, his extensive background here as well. Oh, here it is. This is from Intercept investigative reporter, Guardian investigative reporter, written for Politico and Mother Joe's Business Insider, Jacqueline Sweet. Says, Shamsuddin Jabbar's LinkedIn profile was deleted, but here are the ghost remnants. His current job was IT team chief at the U.S. Army Reserve. Previous job was information technology team leader at U.S. Army Reserve, information management officer at U.S. Army, senior information systems specialist at U.S. Army, human resources supervisor at U.S. Army, HR specialist at U.S. Army, data entry operator at U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, data entry clerk at U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, data entry clerk at United States Postal Service. His education is Central Senior High School. He has a Bachelor of Business Administration from Georgia State University, and he's a graduate from Fort Gordon NCO Academy. He's a graduate from 25B Information Technology MOS training, and a graduate from U.S. Army Alaska NCO Academy. Associates from Central Texas College, associate's degree from Central Texas College, an honor graduate from 42A Human Resource Specialist Advanced Individual Training, graduate from U.S. Army Basic Combat Training, and University of Houston. Jabbar has several LLCs registered in Texas and Georgia, mostly seem to be real estate related. He had a Twitter account, which is now deleted, where he was active until at least 2021. Previous arrest in 2002 for driving with a suspended license in Texas. Here are some of his posts from his deleted profile. But like I said, or like Jacqueline is reporting, that the last time it seems that he was active on the platform was 2021. Let me explain something very quickly. An act of unimaginable violence from one group, a person from a background that is not white, if you see that and say, well, this is how all members of said group are like, that's just racism. That's it. That's all it is. The notion that one person's acts of violence is a damning indication for the entire race, ethnic background, or religion is insane. And it's the same as, for example, assuming that all Jewish people love what Israel is doing and across the board are on board with it and want to eviscerate Palestinian children. That's it. That's anti-Semitic, and it is bigoted thinking. It's stupid thinking. It's remarkable how seemingly normal this guy comes across, by the way, in this video. That just reads as like a fairly normal person. I don't pick up on any red flags here at all. I think what makes this unique is apparently his recent radicalization. Just like a Texan man, Army veteran, and now real estate guy. Army veteran turned real estate guy. In comparison to the Christmas market act of terror in Germany, in Magdeburg, that dude's social media footprint was insane. That dude's social media footprint was the ramblings of a psychotic madman who was ultra racist, ultra Islamophobic, AFD aligned. He was making the rounds on many other far right websites online. That one profiles like a mass shooter waiting to happen or a terrorist waiting to erupt at any given moment. This person so far, his profile online, what we can recover of his profile online, does not showcase a footprint that is consistent with what you normally see from people like this. But yeah, suspect in New Orleans attack is identified as a Texan and had an ISIS flag with him. In a YouTube video from 2020, the man identified as a suspect said he had been born and raised in Beaumont, Texas, and had served in the U.S. military. We watched that video already. Shamsuddin Jabbar is his name, 42 years old, a native of Texas who has served in the U.S. Army, did a lot of IT work for the U.S. Army as well, was a real estate guy. The Federal Bureau of Investigation said it was examining an Islamic State flag that was found in the truck used in the attack, that it believed Mr. Jabbar was not solely responsible. Several improvised explosive devices were found and disposed of, officials said. Of course, never let a crisis go to waste. Senator Kennedy demands answers for the New Orleans truck attack. There are potentially other people that were working alongside the main perpetrator. Is he insinuating that it was CIA? I doubt that Senator Kennedy would insinuate that this is a CIA thing, because the perpetrator is a Islamic convert who potentially got radicalized and had sympathies for ISIS. In that regard, it is actually closer to this being the work of the CIA if you are a conspiratorially minded person, considering the ISIS affiliations with the American State Department. But a person like Kennedy would never say that for a situation like this. He would only say that if it was a white supremacist, anti-government extremist or something like that. I think he's insinuating that this was the result of illegal migration. I don't know. No, the driver didn't get away. He got out with a gun and then got shot and killed in the gun battle.
Instead, they put
that took place afterwards
in front of some of those.
I think 2 cops were injured as well, right, in the process. Why is this declared terrorism? Dude, if this was a white dude, okay, who drove a pickup truck into this crowded Bourbon Street New Year's celebration, okay, New Year's Eve celebration, it would still be an act of terrorism. Terrorism as a definition is intentionally vague and oftentimes politically applied towards enemies of the American state. Having said that, however, it like in the most basic definition of terrorism, trying to kill as many civilians as possible in an effort to, I don't know, create like a race war, or in an effort to say that you love ISIS, for example, would still fit that same would still fit that same definition. Objectively, this is, there's nothing weird about considering this an act of terror.
Titled Leadership. Now, authorities do confirm that he served in the U.S. Army. We do have a picture of him from that photo that was posted on Facebook from the U.S. Army. This is a picture of him in 2013. It's a Facebook post from the U.S. Army again, and he's identified in this photo as an Army Staff Sergeant working as an information technology team chief for the 82nd Airborne Division's 1st Brigade Combat Team, and that was back then in 2013. He also posted an online resume where he describes how he graduated from Central Texas College in 2010 and he received a bachelor's degree from Georgia State University in 2017. Georgia State does confirm that he did attend there and did graduate. And Texas records also show that he had a real estate license from 2019 and it expired in 2023. And then the last thing, Wolf, that we found really interesting, because it sort of lays the financial picture of his life currently, is that he was in a divorce with his first wife, and that in 2012 she had sued him for child support. But in 2022, he had submitted an email talking about how he was struggling financially. He wrote that he had fallen behind in house payments, that he feared that he was nearing foreclosure, that he was behind more than $27,000 in payments. He also wrote that the business that he had talked about in that YouTube video, that it had also not made money. He'd lost $28,000 and he was $16,000 in credit card debt, Wolf.
There's a lot that make up a very normal narrative, and then there are some aspects of this that I consider to be a little like weird. How the fuck does a guy like divorced dad, army veteran, all this stuff, right? Divorced dad, army veteran, under debt, that makes up a very common thread for a point of radicalization for a lot of people. The ISIS shit, on the other hand, is weird. Like converting to Islam and then becoming like an ISIS supporter, that stuff, I mean, it could have happened after his point of radicalization due to his financial circumstances or whatever. But like, I don't know. I mean, it seems like a thread from, I don't know, what people oftentimes point to in Europe, even if there's no evidence for it whatsoever.
Designed and constructed so that they would actually be weapons of lethality as well. So that goes to the intent.
Especially considering his like extensive background in the military. I don't look at situations like this and immediately go, ooh, there's a grand conspiracy here. Okay. Usually what you see is what you get. Having said that, however, I would say that it could very well be the entry point into his radicalization was initially his material conditions that then caused him to go fucking nutso mode and then get radicalized, convert to Islam, and then get radicalized online. The very fact that he had people working with him potentially is also strange. A lot of the lone wolf incidents like this are lone wolf incidents. You know what I mean? It's just like one person that will engage in the ramming attack. But the fact that there's IEDs involved in this and potentially other people also involved in this as well, that like the police are looking around the entire area for additional improvised explosive devices. It's much more sophisticated and more coordinated than the average like point of radicalization. Like guy who's radicalized who just like goes into goes out and does an act of violence, even if it's at the behest of ISIS or whatever. I mean, the fact that they found the improvised explosive devices, like, in my opinion, getting the vibe that most of chat today is wanting to do a full conspiracy bulletin board. I don't know. I have no idea what happened. I will repeat that over and over again. I do not know what happened, and only time will tell. In many instances like this, we never get the full picture. Like, we don't even know the full picture of Stephen Paddock to this day, right? The Las Vegas shooter. Having said that, there's also within the initial breaking news coverage of this, there will oftentimes be incorrect information. So it's important not to read too far into it. Like, I'll give you an example. They're saying that there's numerous other IEDs, right, that they have found and intercepted. That could, one, be absolutely correct. Or it could be that the news is reporting it as IEDs, even though they were like fucking fireworks or something. You know what I mean? I'm using an example. I'm not telling you that that's what happened, but I'm using this as an example to show you that sometimes even well-intentioned people in their news coverage, when they're doing breaking news coverage, will just run with whatever the police initially thought was going on, and then later down the line they will follow up and say, "Oh no, these were actually not IEDs, improvised explosive devices, but instead it was just fireworks that we found." it's important not to be too invested in immediate common threads in the aftermath of a situation like this,
left the way it was
and
left
wait for
today,
more
where there's
information to
still a lot
come
of
and
work
more
that has to be
verification
done.
to come
And
after
that's,
as well. Also, there's additional updates on both the Cybertruck explosion in Las Vegas and this New Orleans attack, but Elon Musk has confirmed that the explosion was caused by a very large fireworks and or bomb carried in the bed of the rented Cybertruck and is unrelated to the vehicle itself. All vehicle telemetry was positive at the time of the explosion. And Fightix News has brought forth AP Reuters coverage on this. Both the Cybertruck involved in the Las Vegas explosion and the truck used in the New Orleans terror attack were rented to the same app, Turo, which is not that unique for the record. That's normal. Turo is an application used for exactly those kinds of vehicles, like Cybertrucks, F-150 Lightning, which is, I believe, the ISIS dude used. So it's not that uncommon, and I don't think there's anything unique about the application itself. It's just a rental application. It's a peer-to-peer rental service. I haven't seen a single pic of the ISIS flag. How can it do rollout with a flag around a super crowded city without people taking video and pics? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, is the flag on the car in the initial video when he's driving in? Because I didn't see that. Like, I don't know when the flag was planted on the car. It's on, but wrapped up on the back. Oh, okay. So it was rolled up. It was not in the car. It was in the cab. People are saying it's, some people have said the flag was inside of the cab. Some people are saying the flag was rolled up in the back and then someone unveiled it. I don't know. I don't know what happened there. I have no idea.
Incident, and now this one that is also being investigated as this possible terror attack.
Stay with me if you can. Okay, I want to bring in Tom Winter to talk more about this, then also shifting gears, obviously, to what we've been following all day out of New Orleans. Tom, I know you're wearing two hats now, two potential terror attacks now that we're looking at in this country, the first day of 2025. If you can add on to some of what Emily was just talking about with her reporting here.
Right. So Emily referenced a lot of what we've been saying. My colleagues, Kelly O'Donnell, as well as Andrew Blankstein out west, who covers our West Coast. Basically, there's some
then
things
look
that they
into
found
it.
in the course
Are you
of
talking to me?
investigation,
I
the way
will
that
look
the car
into it.
explodes. And Elon Musk, by the way, has actually just put out on his X platform that he owns details about this, saying there was either some sort of fireworks that were packed in the bed of the truck or a low explosive device. It looks to me like it could actually be a combination of both, using fireworks as a means of creating a detonation that eventually creates the car being on fire, as you're seeing here. This is after the detonation occurs, this video that's taken. I've seen some surveillance video. We're just trying to make sure that we're going to be able to use it and show it to you, that shows the back of the Cybertruck in the bed, as Musk describes, effectively kind of blowing out. This is not a truck bomb. This is not a Oklahoma City type level of explosion. This person would not be standing there if that was the case, but it is something that is being looked at as an intentional act. And the belief now is that it could become a terrorist attack. There are going to be other steps that are going to be taken at Trump properties, but it's not yet clear as far as if there's any sort of additional existential threat. One thing I do want to point out, when we look at these type of incidents involving Trump, involving a Cybertruck and Musk, whoever did this knows that we're in the process of confirming a name, knows that this is going to get a lot of attention. Probably thought it'd get a lot more of attention than it did if we weren't talking about 10 people who are deceased or more as a result of a terrorist attack in New Orleans.
Right.
But whoever did this knew that. And as we saw with the Trump trial, there was a person who died by suicide.
Here's the flag covered up. I don't know if they covered it up themselves or if it was covered up, though.
For their cause, not necessarily a cause against Trump or Musk. So we have to keep that in mind as a potential possibility here. But it's just too soon to say, at least what we've been told, what the motive might be. But it's something that we're definitely tracking closely.
So just a couple more questions on this, Tom, and then we're going to pivot to New Orleans. What is leading authorities here to say that they're investigating a possible terror attack? Is there anything that we can kind of put our thumb on to know as to why they see that as a potential motive?
Yeah, I don't have any specifics on that just yet, or at least none that are confirmed. And so I just kind of want to stay away from, I don't want to get into a business of speculation, which I know you appreciate. I just don't want to go there with so much stuff going on today. I do think it's important to mention that this Cybertruck was apparently rented from the same rental company that the suspect in New Orleans used. But we should note, to be clear here, there's no indication law enforcement says they found of any connection between the Trump Tower incident in New Orleans. They appear to be totally separate.
Yeah, important to obviously reiterate that as we're reporting on these two simultaneous stories happening that may honestly be just a total coincidence that they're happening on the same day. Tom, let's pivot if we can. I want to talk New Orleans, and I want to talk about the suspect and what we're learning, because this also is a fast-developing story. Let's talk about his military service, because we're learning more about his military service. I know that we've learned that he was honorably discharged. He served multiple years in the military. Walk us through what more we know.
Yeah, so 42 years old, as we're looking at there on screen, born in 1982, October 26 to be precise. He's a U.S. citizen from Texas, an Army veteran. They said at the press conference he was discharged honorably, pronounced dead at the scene after getting in a gunfight with law enforcement. So this whole idea of whether he acted alone or not is interesting. Specifically, Yasmin, this idea of whether or not there were other people that were involved in these two additional improvised explosive devices that we've been talking about today that were found near where this incident occurred. The highlighted image there shows what federal law enforcement says is a ISIS flag, or ISIS-related flag. We noted that right away earlier today. By the way, Sayfullo Saipov, who is an individual who was convicted of the West Side Highway vehicle ramming attack, talked about putting a flag on the back of his pickup truck, also rented from a different company, also rented, but thought the NYPD would see the flag and immediately engage with him. So this is not the first time this idea has come up. But basically, we've got these two improvised explosive devices that were found outside the vehicle, found in New Orleans. There were some individuals kind of around those that were seen on surveillance video. Not clear whether or not they just observed those things and said, well, that's a little suspicious, or whether they were involved in putting them there. That's what the FBI is kind of...
This is just how it is, okay? This is just how it is, especially with like information spreading super fast online. In real-time news coverage, you were saying you didn't know law? No, I also specifically stated even verified information that comes out initially might be wrong. So don't actually get hyper invested and develop an idea of what you think happened. I know there's no donut. I took it off. Don't immediately jump to conclusions and tug on certain strings to craft like convenient narratives because of even verified information that comes out initially. I said even verified information could be wrong. And don't jump to conclusions. All of this happening right as the Trump admin is coming into power makes things even scarier. Fox reading after reading statement from Trump, the former president said criminals coming in his statement meaning into our country. To be clear, the suspect was born in the United States. He served in the United States Army. He was a veteran.
Donald Trump put out a statement on social media earlier today that reads as follows. When I said that the criminals coming in are far worse than the criminals we have in our country, that statement was constantly refuted by Democrats and the fake news media, but it turned out to be true. The crime rate in our country is at a level that nobody has ever seen before. Our hearts are with all the innocent victims and their loved ones, including the brave officers of the New Orleans Police Department. The Trump administration will fully support the city of New Orleans as they investigate and recover from this act of pure evil. Now, the former president said criminals coming in his statement, meaning into our country. But to be clear, Molly and Brian, the suspect was born in the United States. He served in the United States Army. He was a veteran. The FBI is the lead agency in this investigation, going through the social media and any other accounts associated with the suspect. But that President-elect Donald Trump put out a statement on social media earlier today.
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised to find out that the Toronto trip had more relevance than the Egypt trip. This is a very painful lesson, I think, for us, because, initially when this incident happened, I think a lot of people jumped to the conclusion that this person was a foreign national, was a legal migrant, something like that. This person was an American. He was born in the United States. He was a U.S. military serviceman. And unfortunately, he fits exactly the profile of the kind of people that are being recruited by groups like ISIS right now. There is this trope about terrorism that is the other, is the foreigners, it is someone else. But in fact, these groups are able to recruit people from directly inside the United States. This person appears to be radicalized, from what we can tell, at least so far, this person appears to be radicalized inside the United States, right? So any trip to Egypt or whatnot, there's no telling whether it's actually relevant or not. Probably not, right? Most of these folks that do this, they're not going overseas to terrorist training camps in foreign countries. They're learning everything they need to do off the internet. Right.
Yeah.
And it's very easy because there are terrorist training manuals that are put out by ISIS in English. You don't need to speak Arabic. You don't need to speak Urdu or Farsi or whatever. You can speak English. And it's very clear about what to do. It tells you to get in a car,
I mean, he's not
drive
wrong. He's
and ram
right.
people and kill them, exactly as this person did. So, I hate to say it, but you didn't need to travel to any country outside the United States to do what this person did.
But then decided to join ISIS instead. Bro, this is like the fucking loony bin. We have a serious and very severe mental health crisis in this country. Oftentimes, the trigger point being material issues, but also family court. Okay, we have to study the minds of people who have literally considered themselves victim to family court. We have to shut down family court until we figure out what the hell is going on. Okay, but how the fuck did the FBI miss this guy? The way the FBI misses this guy is because the FBI is not the guy talking to him. Normally, if you're talking to an ISIS guy online, okay, you're most likely talking to an FBI guy, especially when they start telling you like, oh, my friend, put down the chicken breast and join the jihad, bro. There's some Tenorite that I can let you purchase. Here's some Tenorite that I left at this coordinate. Please go pick it up. It would be sick if you used it to blow shit up. And then you go to pick up the Tenorite. And the FBI stops you, and then they go, we've apprehended a terror attack. That's usually how it works, okay? Yeah, put down the chicken wings and join the jihad, bro. It's just crazy that, like, he was like, oh, dude, on the one hand, I could just kill my entire family because I'm fucking insane. On the other hand, I can join global jihad. It's like, those are the options, dude. How about the third option of not doing any of that? There is other options out there. It's called not doing any of that. What a fucking insane motive. Here we go. Having to teach white people how ISIS is more aligned with Israel than they are of any Islamic group. Shaking my head. I know. Yeah, I mean, the more you find out about this dude's profile and background, the more you realize that maybe divorce court was it is insane, almost like it was made up. I mean, if there's video, you'll see it. Like, it's from CNN. Even 9/11 had more motive than this fucking freak. Yeah, I mean, dude, first of all, the guy was just like, you know what? Either I do serial killing on my family or I join ISIS. Like, that's a psychotic thing. Like, it just doesn't, I don't think his heart was in it at all for the ISIS shit. Not that it fucking matters. It's obviously he was an incredibly psychotic, violent individual. I just don't understand how the timeline doesn't make sense. The timeline doesn't make sense at all. Like, what, he radicalized and quote unquote joined ISIS? Like, he said the Shahada on the way from fucking Texas to Louisiana a week prior? Like, that's not how this works. You know what I mean? That seems weird as fuck. That seems incredibly fishy, and I'm going to be, again, very charitable and say that this is most likely a misunderstanding. If he was radicalized and joined ISIS, he probably did it way before he just decided to travel from Texas by EV to Louisiana, which is also weird. Like, this dude utilized a Turo rental truck, and I get why he would use an EV for the attack, because, like, it has massive pickup speed and it's very heavy. Okay. But how the heck did he use an EV to go from Texas to Louisiana? How many points did he have to stop at? That's like maximum 250 miles. Every 250 miles, he has to stop and recharge for the past couple of hours, just like sit there. He'd been planning this and driving for 4 years. Oh, wait, what? That's where the videos are from? Okay, that makes a little bit more sense than with the ISIS, he joined ISIS thing. You know what I mean? Like, if he has like 4 years worth of videos that he shot, but that still doesn't make sense, because in 2021, he was still very much online. After 2 to 3 years of no online presence, he goes to this, suddenly converting in a few months and posting on his way after years of online silence, mandatory mental health checkup for veterans. Here, this is the CNN reporting on this once again. Suspect in New Orleans attack made series of recordings before Wednesday's attack. Officials say suspect in New Orleans made a series of video recordings before Wednesday morning that law enforcement are currently reviewing, according to multiple officials briefed on the investigation. The recordings appear to have been made driving at night. The suspect is not visible because it's dark, but authorities believe the recordings were made as he drove from Texas to Louisiana, although the exact timing is not yet clear. In the recordings, the suspect makes reference to his divorce and how he had first planned to gather his family for a celebration with the intention of killing them. Two officials who had been briefed on the material in the recording said the suspect also talked about how he had changed his plans and said that he joined ISIS. He referenced several dreams that he had about why he should be joining ISIS. I just don't. I mean, dude, they have so much. They had so much security. How the heck did they, in spite of all of the security, how did he like get through? That's what's crazy. They spent so much money talking about how much protection they have. I mean, in the media, they covered it. They covered it extensively. They're like, oh, we love, our police state is intact. We're doing round the clock surveillance. Meanwhile, some divorced guy is like, I love ISIS now. I'm going to do a terror attack. He rents out an electric vehicle pickup truck, Ford F-150 Lightning, which is, which has a very limited range in comparison to a gas-powered vehicle that you could just kind of very quickly refill. Guy is like, I'm a victim of divorce court. I'm a victim of family court. And I have two options, like mass murder my family or ISIS. And I think I'm choosing ISIS. It's so insane. I know why he would use an EV, because it does more damage. I know. And it's quiet. And also on top of that, it has incredible acceleration.
A very normal, well-spoken person. So something happened here, and we have not really heard much about.
Yeah, something happened. The something is family court. But how did the ISIS stuff play a role in his life? That's what I don't understand.
This horrific attack.
All right, Ken Delanian, for now, I'm going to ask you to stand by once again, my friend. I know you're going to be following all the developments for us.
It's obvious that something happened here is probably family court.
For just a moment, we have multiple law enforcement sources.
But how do you go from family court victim to ISIS guy?
Outside of the Trump International Hotel in Vegas.
He is very well spoken. He doesn't look like he's an insane guy who's going to do something insane. In the videos that you saw,
at least one person,
dude, his background,
7 others have been injured. I want to bring in Emily Akay.
Okay. Listen to me. His background and the media, the social media footprint he has is not consistent with like a loner psycho, okay? Like even when you look at Stephen Paddock, there's a lot that's like weird with his background. You know what I mean? He's a serial gambler. One might even call a professional gambler. All the stuff, or any number of different like white supremacist shooters. They're always like loners, weirdos. They don't have their shit together. There's no place where you can like look to the background of a guy like this. I have yet to see anything, with I guess the exception of these potential self-taped recordings that CNN claims is out there, but you can't really see him. I don't see anything in his background that makes sense at all. Like even with Luigi Mangione. Right? Luigi Mangione is unique in the sense that his background does not fit the profile of someone who go out and do a murder, right? At all, which is why it broke a lot of people's brains. Having said that, however, there is obviously a through line. There is obviously a point of radicalization for Luigi Mangione, allegedly in this alleged murder that he allegedly committed, even though we think he didn't, okay? There is a motive that you can attribute to the suspect, a point of radicalization that you can point to within the suspect's history. With this guy, it's literally normal guy, veteran, military guy, has like YouTube videos about how he's a real estate guy who will help you out. All of it is like normal. And then out of nowhere, it's like ISIS. How did that happen? I need to understand how that happened. And I think one thing that you could point to is obviously the divorce. And as far as I understand, like there can be numerous points of radicalization, and a guy that like somehow found ISIS material online, but like, what is ISIS? It's not like ISIS is popping right now. Does that make sense? There is no unifying factor for ISIS That's why it's like so weird. That's what makes this extra weird. This is not exactly a pivotal moment for ISIS activity where like they're not even like a dormant movement. It's almost entirely fallen apart. With I guess like maybe some operations in Africa, some remnants of the movement, with the exception of like ISIS-K. Can you expand on religious violence in 2025? Do you really believe it's not happening at all? I agree that it's disproportionately leveled at Muslims, a way to demonize them, but I think Christian harassment and violence against Muslims in America is just an example. No, dude. No, because there are multiple billions of people that are believers in all three of the Abrahamic religions. The majority of this planet believes in one religion, something. They're not doing violence because they believe in the religion. They're doing violence because of the material conditions that have impacted them in a negative fashion. They're vulnerable. They get radicalized. In many circumstances, they're doing violence because, you know, they've been taught that this is appropriate. Religion is simply just an additional component in this process. It's like saying Buddhism is the most violent religion. Look at Myanmar. Ironically enough, no one is calling the Magdeburg guy atheist violence, even though he was a incredibly sweaty atheist, anti-Islam guy, right? Was that an act of atheist violence? No. It's wild that the media still in 2025 says like, I can't believe an American veteran would turn into a terrorist. Like, what are we talking about? American veterans are primed for radicalization. Of course, it's shocking that there aren't more. They literally have they can get crippling PTSD from basic training. Okay, even if they have a desk job for the most part, and especially if they have and this guy toured as well. He went to Afghanistan. Like, they have all of these medical needs that the government says they're going to attend to and then don't. Sometimes they're overprescribed with medication. That is if they get medication at all. And yeah, it's a prime vector for radicalization. These are some of the most vulnerable people. We just use them and discard them. And also, they're trained to do violence. Like, it doesn't make any sense when the media's like, I'm so shocked. I'm so shocked that a American veteran could do this. How was that shocking? Bro, I'm sorry, but since October 7, what Islamic style Hamas-backed attacks have occurred in the United States of America? If anything, the hyper focus on random they, them, non-binary queer English majors on Ivy League institutions exercising their First Amendment rights is probably taken away from the fucking actual bandwidth that these agencies are supposed to dedicate themselves to combating actual terror. Like, what are you saying? What are you saying? On the one hand, our surveillance state has been going full tilt in prosecuting, surveilling, harassing, sometimes detaining and arresting college students, and the media has elevated that as the peak of terror. On the other hand, they're trying to tie back a dude who's like ramming through a crowd with a ISIS flag in the back of his pickup truck and saying like, well, you know, violence has increased dramatically since October 7. That is insane. That is insane. You can't live in this world. Like, you can't exist in this world where students that are like, Israel is an apartheid, which is true, which is just like objectively correct statement. And we want to protest against that, is in the same vein as like a dude being like, I am a victim of divorce court, so now I'm ISIS. Like that. It's wild. Hasan, I agree, but the same is true with Biden claiming white supremacy is the #1 domestic terror threat. No, that is objectively true, chatter. Statistically speaking, that is correct. Okay? Post 9/11, the overwhelming majority of domestic terror incidents have been conducted by white supremacists, far-right, anti-government extremists. Okay? That's literally true. And in many circumstances, we do not treat it as though it is an act of terror regardless. So yeah, if you actually were interested in apprehension and counterterrorism, you would probably focus on that. The problem is our law enforcement agencies are just so incompetent that instead of engaging in apprehension and counterterrorism operations, they end up usually goading the white supremacists into doing stuff only to then entrap them and turn around and go, yeah, we did it. We got them. It works in the same exact way as they did with the Islamic terror as well. And the people that do actually get radicalized and take matters in their own hands, the government will turn around and say the classic line, the famous line, he was on our radar. That's it. Why do you think they always turn around and say, he was on our radar? The shooter was on our radar. This mass shooter was on our radar. What a fucking way to start the new year.